Okay, so this is Grammar Unit 2, Exercise 12, Sentences 1 and 2. So this is going to be how you're going to see these sentences on the quiz. They're going to be in passive voice, and you'll have to sort of put everything back in the expected sort of order, so subject, verb, direct object, etc. And then you have to chart out kind of what you have. So remember, these sentences in passive voice may not always have a subject, which is why after you kind of sort out the verb and you get rid of that be plus en, you may have to add a generic subject or a specific one that you can make it up, that's fine too, if there isn't that by prepositional phrase. Okay, so our conversation was being recorded by a hidden microphone. If it just says our conversation was being recorded last Thursday, you have to kind of know, oh, that's still passive, right? Because you've got that en verb with a form of be in front of it. Still passive, but I may need to add a subject by someone last Thursday. Okay? All right, so let's take a look at sentences 1 and 2. And so you can follow either the directions on that green handout, active transformation steps, or if you just want to kind of get in the hang of it, I would kind of recommend you use the essential handout, which has the same stuff on it, just to sort of get in your mind how you're going to sort of work with it on the quiz. So exercise 12, the football team was led onto the field by the cheerleading squad. Okay, so I always like to, when I'm looking for these sentences, check for that by prepositional phrase first. That just tells me if it's going to be a little complicated later on, and sometimes I'll circle it so I can kind of remember that it's there. So transform my verb. So I want to write out all parts of the passive voice verb string. So use your chart, right, passive voice string formula, because it has that extra space for the be plus en in it. And so as you go from right to left, if you have two forms of be, then you may end up filling out this one. But if you only have one form of be, it's going to go in this be plus en and kind of get crossed out. And then you're going to kind of keep going from sort of right to left. So in this sentence, the football team was led onto the field by the cheerleading squad, right? So we have our verb is was led, so right to left, right? That's how we go with this. Led is actually to lead. So we're done with that. Then was, we're going to put here. So be plus en is going to go there. And then we don't have another form of be. We don't have a form of have. We don't have a modal auxiliary. We always will have a tense though. Remember, you always have a tense, always have a main verb. And so tense is determined by the first thing in the sentence, and that's was. So this is past. So our transformed verb is past plus be plus en plus lead. Okay, and so to get our original verb, we cross out the be and we cross out that en. So then when we recombine our sentence, we just end up with the past tense of lead. Okay? All right, so when we look at this sentence, once we've sorted that out, because we have a by prepositional phrase, right, we can sort of skip that. And so we say we replace the passive voice verb, move the passive subject back to its position, move the object back to where it goes. So it's just sort of a movement thing. We have something extra in our sentence, onto the field, right? That's where they're being led, so that's an adverbial prepositional phrase. So in our new sentence, we want to keep that adverbial prepositional phrase buried in between what will become the direct object and the subject, the original sentence subject. Okay, so we just want to keep that in mind as we sort of rewrite our sentence. So the cheerleading squad is the original subject, so that goes at the beginning. So the cheerleading squad so that goes where the football team is. The next thing in our sentence is the verb. So past tense of lead is led. So led. Then we put our adverbial prepositional phrase onto the field because it keeps its position. And where the cheerleading squad is, we put the original direct object. The football team. All right, so when we look at this sentence, it's a lot easier now to sort of chart this out. we said onto the field is an adverbial prepositional phrase. Cheerleading squad's noun phrase 1, that's our subject. Football team, noun phrase 2, that's our direct object. Always we have a noun phrase 2, we know you have a transitive verb, so this ends up being pattern 7. Okay? All right. So the cheerleaders are chosen by a committee in the spring. Sentence 2. So what's our verb? We want to write that out. So our chosen is our verb. So going from right to left, we say, okay, the main verb is choose, right? So base form is to something. So choose is our main verb. Then we have an R, so we're going to put that in here. It's going to go in this be plus en, which will eventually get crossed out. We don't have another form of be. We don't have a have. We don't have a modal. R is in present tense, so our transformed verb is present tense of be plus en plus choose. Okay? So when we cross out our be and we cross out our en, we'll end up with just the present tense of choose. So chooses, probably, or choose. All right. So we have a biprepositional phrase, right, which means a committee is going to be our original subject. Who are they choosing, right? The cheerleaders are chosen. That's the direct object. And then in the spring, that's an adverbial prepositional phrase, right? That's when they're chosen. And so that goes over there. So when is an adverbial prepositional phrase, so it'll stay at the end. It's not going to move with a committee, okay? It would if it was adjectival, but it's not. So we start our sentence with a committee. And then we put in our, that goes where cheerleaders is. Then the next thing is we have our verb. So the committee is a singular thing, so it chooses. That's what we want, present tense, right? Today it chooses. Then where the committee is, the cheerleaders go, right? We don't include the by, the cheerleaders. And then that adverbial prepositional phrase stays where it is at the end in the spring. So pattern-wise, when we chart this thing out, we've got chooses as our verb, committee noun phrase 1, the cheerleaders noun phrase 2, the spring's a prepositional phrase. We've got subject, transitive verb, direct object, and that is adverbial. So this is another pattern 7. They won't all be pattern 7, right? Because you can have an object complement, you could have an indirect object, all of those kinds of things. You know, a one-word adverb, which wouldn't change the pattern actually, but all of those things will sort of stay where they are, and you're just switching the subject and the direct object. Okay, so we'll do 3, 4, and 5 in class, and then on the back, 6 through 10 should be your independent practice.